Steve here. Welcome to your next edition of Highlights. We'll be doing an update on the cash S&P because we're at a critical level now. And before we segue into an actual S&P chart, cash S&P 500, just want to remind you, for those who are not familiar with our educational resources, we do have one of my favorite Western strategies discussed in our DVDs, and that is called a falling off the roof. So essentially, the market's at a resistance area. It pushes above resistance and then winds up closing below the resistance area. And the reason I call this falling off the roof is because there's a wonderful Japanese proverb that says, let him climb the roof and then take away the ladder. It's actually a false breakout. So with this in mind, and by the way, this resistance area should be tested more than once. So with this in mind, let's look at what's going on in the S&P. I'll get to these symbols here, the plus W and the minus S, in a minute or two. Anyway, we had a resistance area, and this was actually an evening star pattern, a bearish evening star, and a confirmed resistance area. This is also an evening star, so we had back-to-back. And this is a great thing about education with Nison candlesticks. And the reason we call them Nison candlesticks is because there's, a lot of education out there in candlesticks, but, they're well-intentioned, but unfortunately a lot of the information is wrong. And so we have what we call Nison candlesticks, candlestick training the right way. Anyway, these are both evening stars, and the high of the evening star should be resistance, so we had back-to-back evening stars. Pretty ominous. And so we had a resistance area, and now notice recently the market on Friday, this is through the close on Monday, the market pushed above resistance, but it couldn't close above it, or just closed slightly. If it did close above it, depending on how thick I drew the line, it was slightly above the resistance, but essentially not a decisive breakout. And then today we've pulled back a little, high close for the move, which is good, but still not a decisive break of resistance. So what I'd be watching very, very carefully is to really confirm a breakout. I want to see a close above 1155. Right now, the market does look a little bit vulnerable because of the inability to decisively break above the resistance area. Now, again, for those who have the education, one of the other things we like looking at is old resistance. Okay, once broken decisively, which has not happened yet, old resistance should become new support. So if the market closes at 1155 or higher, then on any pullbacks, it's very important to hold about the 1150 area based on the close. Okay, because if it doesn't, that would be a false breakout or falling off the roof. Right now, we're also in that mode of falling off the roof. It hasn't been negated yet. We have to see a close above 1155 to really turn bullish. Now, what I'd be looking for as next support is the rising window, which is a plus W. Now, what these are, by the way, the rally started with a hammer, the plus H. This is our Nison candle scanner on the upper left-hand corner. Okay, that's what the plus H is for. I don't have all the candle signals highlighted. For example, this would be evening star. I just wanted to highlight the hammer, the window, and we'll look at this minus S in a minute. So the hammer is a plus H, and what's great about the candle scanner is all you got to do is left mouse click on the symbol or the upward pointing arrow, and you get, if you see here on the lower left, what the signal is. So if you don't remember plus H is a hammer, you just click on it, and you have the text hammer. Anyway, the market rallied from the hammer. Now we have a series of rising windows. That's what the plus W's are. And we know a rising window is support. So we had a rising window here and a rising window over here. And this is actually my first support area on a continued break. Would be this rising window. And then the next support would be the rising window here. Now the reason I wanted to show you this rising window is, once again, beside discussing the market analysis on the S&P, we do these to provide education. So the minus S is a shooting star. Many of you should recognize this basic candlestick signal. Little red downward pointing arrow means it's potentially bearish. And by the way, the candle scanner doesn't generate buy and sell signals. A green, or I should say a blue up arrow, doesn't mean buy, it's just a potentially bullish signal. Just like a red down arrow doesn't mean sell. And especially, you should not be selling the shooting star. Okay, and for those who are familiar with the shooting star on the window, why would you not be selling on the shooting star? And if you want to think about it, you can put the player control and pause and think a second or two about it before you hear my answer. And the answer is, okay, if you're selling on the shooting star, you're selling at the window support area. This is a really bad trade, folks. And notice how nicely this window, this gap, held as support for the next few sessions. All right, so it's very important that we say at our educational sessions, not every candle signal should be used to buy or sell. Sometimes you stand aside. So with this shooting star, although it's a potentially bearish signal, okay, shown by the minus S and the downward pointing red arrow, it doesn't mean you sell it. If you're selling it here, you're selling right at support. Okay, not a great trading strategy. So very important just to summarize. I want to see a close for those who are bullish. Want to really see a close above the recent high to say that okay, we've blown, as the Japanese would say, we've blown the dirt away. But for now, I'd be a little bit nervous because of the inability to decisively close above the resistance. So hopefully this helped. And by the way, if you do want information on the Nison candle scanner, you can visit our website at www.candlecharts.com. And once again, the link down here is for anybody who if you have colleagues or friends who are traders or active investors and are not yet part of our free educational newsletters, highlights that we send like this one. Why don't you send them this link so they can be part of our Nison CandleCharts.com family. Thanks for joining me, and may the candles continue lighting your path to greater prosperity.